This is where I got out of the railway, out of the train, and wandered down towards the town along this route here. I stopped at the shop here, bought some bananas and some water, and then carried on down to the seafront here where I bought coffee, um, something to eat, and just sat down and had a little bit of a rest after 2 days on the train. I then continued up along the street here, having found out where I was, and came out of the town at the end of the tracks and followed this route up here, which led to the dead end. Then I had to come back, found the correct route, and went up along here. I was a bit surprised to find this frontier post, which was a major crossing point for the refugees from the Civil War in 1936. Still standing, full graffitied, but still an interesting piece of history. Then I came down here, and this is where the mistakes really started because this route was well marked. This route I didn't even see. So I continued to come down along here, following the way markings, um, which led me at some stage, as I realised suddenly, towards the sea, which is obviously the wrong way. I tried to go down here and couldn't find anything, came back up here, went along here, and this actually turned out to be an almost sheer drop, although it was marked as a pathway. So it got too dangerous anyway there, so I came back along here, met the Icelandic guy here with his mobile home. While I was standing here, I realised that the path opposite was the one I should have taken. It led inland. So I continued along there and everything was going good. It was very steep and I had to stop a couple of times, but that wasn't really a big deal. I knew I had about 10 kilometres to go, no problems. It did, however, get quite steep, and I ended up, and we'd already run out of water again, so I found that I was having to stop quite often sometimes. And this was where I found the first place that I thought I might be able to put the tent up. But I put the rucksack down and continued up the path just to have a look at what was here. And then I found this castle here, which told me, because I knew from the directions that I had, that I was about 3 kilometers away from where I was going to. Now, where I was going to was about here. And this is where I am. So I continued up along this pathway just to have a look and found out that I could see where I was going to. But this is where it got a bit strange because I was looking out in front of me, which must have been in this direction, but didn't somehow connect to the pathway that I was looking at. So I went back down, got my rucksack, carried on up along here, was convinced I was going to find the place. Came down to here, where I stopped again. Would have been a perfect place to put the tent up again. Didn't do it. This road led down, was signposted to go down to Portbou, and that was not where I wanted to go to. This was the one I came from. This one was again well marked, and this one had a cross on it not to go down. But it turns out that this was the pathway that I should have taken. It would have led down into the valley. So, having made my wrong decision again, I set off along here, which was just a scree slope, really. It was really, really difficult, and this is where I stayed overnight. I put my bivvy down. I was on the stone track and just stayed there. We'd been without water by about oh, yeah, 6 or 7 hours by now, and I decided that I just wasn't going to carry on. It was going to get getting dark soon. So we stayed there overnight, and I set off early in the morning, continuing along this path, and came to this water. Now, I thought this water was the water 500 meters or so away from where I was supposed to go to, and I could see this track along here, and I assumed that's where I was going to go down to. However, the GPS was pointing me down in this direction, and so I did go down there, came to a dead end, had to come back up again, and then continued along this track. And this is where I stopped, just to find out what had all gone wrong. I did contemplate going back to the water, which wasn't far away. I did contemplate going back to the water and filling all the bottles up and sorting everything out, but the signpost here said Banyuls 5 kilometers, and I decided that it would be a better idea to go down into Banyuls, get some water, get some proper food, sit down, have a sleep, and then set off again in the morning. And so I continued on this pathway down towards Banyuls. I'm still suffering quite badly. I've been about close to 20 hours now without any water. And came down to this roadway here. This was where I met the guy that was cutting his vineyards back here. We hopped in his car and he took us into Banyuls. Dropped us off at the supermarket here. And then we walked over to the campsite over here. So a few words just to finish this off. If you have spent so much time preparing something, then make sure you use that information that you've prepared instead of following markings on the ground, or at least if you're following markings on the ground, before you turn anywhere, wherever there's a chance that you might be pointed in the wrong direction, check it on your GPS map, whatever you're using for guidance. The second thing that came up for me was that although it's fantastic to walk with your dog, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, it was a shame we ran out of water. I felt really sorry for Taxi, even more so than I felt sorry for myself. But you do have to take into account that you have to carry dog food and water for your dog, in addition to your food and your water. This added something like about 3-4 kilos to my pack, plus food for myself, which is going to be another couple of kilos, which meant that I was actually walking with 15 kilos at the beginning, which I found was fine. But by the time you pack dog food in, get water for the dog, put your own food in, you're breaking 20 kilos probably. And it's just those 5 kilos that make it all the more difficult. So you should bear that in mind. Also, if you're going to be doing something like this, especially on the first few days, make sure you rest properly so that you make the right decisions. I unfortunately made a lot of bad decisions. Cost me an awful lot of money for a few days out. I'm not sorry about that. I enjoyed it. I'm glad I went. I'd go again. But you do have to think about what you're doing. So that's a conclusion to all of that. The next trip, don't know yet, but it'll be somewhere.